Two senior investigating officers, Pat Murray and Mark Phillips, led the investigation into the tragic murder of Detective Garda Adrian Donoghue. These men were entrusted by the Irish people with uncovering the truth. These men know without question a critical fact. The man who shot Detective Garda Adrian Donoghue was over 6 feet tall. Aaron Brady, the man they convicted and imprisoned, stands at 5 feet 7 inches. Let that sink in. How does this add up? So now let's examine other evidence from that fateful night. We have already seen the two raiders who attacked the Garda car, and we know that both of those raiders are taller than Aaron Brady. We now highlight other clips from the CCTV footage, which shows a third raider, the man who attacked Pat Bellu's car, a credit union worker. Now, this is an example of how the CCTV footage should have been investigated and should have been presented to the court by Pat Murray and Mark Phillips. Let's now examine evidence from that fateful night. Here we see an aerial view of the Lordship Credit Union car park in the hours after the ambush. Here we focus on car 1, which was driven by Pat Bellew. To note, car 3 is the vehicle driven by Joe Ryan, where Detective Donoghue was seated. This is the vehicle that was attacked by the two armed men. Now we're going to look at some CCTV footage which captures Raider 3 in action as he attacks Pat Bellew's car.
The car up to drive forward, I noticed a couple of people jump across the wall, and they shouted something like, "This is a robbery." I can't tell you exactly.
A raider ran to Bernadette's car, and a fourth smashed in the driver's window of Pat Bellew's car and opened the door.
He reached across me. His body, let's say his chest was here. He never touched.
Raider 3 is now attacking Pat Bellew's driver's door. And as Raider 3 moves around the car, you can notice the red dot. This dot marks the apex of the open door of Bellew's Mazda, which is 4 foot 8 inches, 56 inches in height. The white dot tracks the height of the raider as he moves. Watch carefully as the raider circles the car. Even in a bent over state, his head and shoulders tower above the door frame. He then leans into the vehicle, grabs documents and money, turns and flees. This is where we must take note of this crucial detail. Pat Bellew, in his statements to An Garda Síochána and in the court, repeatedly described his attacker as tall, not small. He couldn't have been clearer. Now stop and ask yourself, how could Aaron Brady, a man who is 5 feet 7 inches, possibly match this description? The physical evidence, the height, proves beyond any doubt that he could not have been the man who attacked either of these two vehicles on that night in Lordship Credit Union car park. So why then was Aaron Brady convicted? Why was the clear and undeniable evidence ignored by Pat Murray and Mark Phillips? Why were the voices of the witnesses like Pat Bellew and Garda Joe Ryan brushed aside by Pat Murray and Mark Phillips? This is not just a question of error, it is a question of justice denied. How can we allow a man to be imprisoned when the evidence so blatantly contradicts his involvement? We've looked at this footage, we've listened and read the testimony of the witnesses. Think about the facts. Does this case truly hold water? Or is it built on a foundation of silence and suppression by Pat Murray and Mark Phillips? Then the more we dig, the more questions emerge. Questions that cannot be ignored. Questions that demand answers from Pat Murray and Mark Phillips. Because justice is not justice when the truth is buried. These facts don't lie. Aaron Brady is not 6 foot 3 inches tall. Aaron Brady does not match the description of the shooter. Aaron Brady cannot be the man in the CCTV footage clips we have brought to the Irish public. So why is he sitting in a prison for a crime he could not have committed? But this is about more than one man's wrongful conviction. This is about truth. This is about the real killer. The man who pulled the trigger and stole Adrian Donoghue's life is still walking free. Who is protecting the real murderer? Pat Marry and Mark Phillips? Why has justice been served this way by Pat Marry and Mark Phillips? And why was Aaron Brady the target of a conviction that does not stand up to scrutiny? We demand the answers. The evidence demands the answers. The truth cannot be buried. Justice cannot wait any longer. But who will answer for this justice? Who will finally bring the truth to light? And who will hold those responsible accountable? Time is running out. The truth must prevail. Justice must be done. Mark Phillips and Pat Marry must answer all of these questions.